We're back here again. You see me again. And last time we talked about PVC pipe and nipples and sprinklers and stuff. And today Thomas asked me to talk to you about the valves and the water supply because this is probably the most important part. The other is very technical, and you have to know where the water is coming from and how much you will receive, okay? So usually you're probably used to things like this. This is these are hose bibs, and you know that this comes out of the wall and your hose comes out. This comes out of a pipe and you could hook your hose on like that, okay? So that's what hose bibs are when we refer to using them. Well, before you get to a hose bib, somewhere you're going to have what they call a gate valve. And it could look like this, and if you look through it, it's perfectly open. You could look right through it, and probably could see it better in this one here. This is plastic, and it's wide open, and so you have this, and this connects your water supply to the sprinkler valves or the hose bib. This could be in the garage of the home, or sometime we even put them just before the valves, so you could turn this off and work on your valves without turning off the water for the whole home. Because if you don't turn the one off down in the garage, they don't have any water in the whole house, and so you have to look for this. And nowadays they use what they call a ball valve. Looks like this, so you only turn it once. They're hard to turn, so there we go. It's just a half a turn, and it closes, a little stainless steel ball.
Would you show them how it's closed? Front, we'll go in there for a close.
There it is, wide open, and then when you close it, you'll see the stainless steel ball. Okay?
There it is.
And these do not leak. Sometimes these, after many years, they leak a little bit. So let's say you turned it off and then you want to solder some pipe, a little bit of water is coming through, and you can't solder the pipe when there's water coming through, okay? So you have these things, but I try and tell my students, you have to know what your pressure is if you're installing a sprinkler system. You have to know what the pressure is and the volume, how many gallons a minute. So the best place to find the pressure is the nearest fire hydrant. Not the one, big blue ones downtown, the big fat one, but in the neighborhoods, they got these little white ones, a little ball on top. And you look on the end of a brass piece that sticks out that the firemen crank to turn the water on, and you look on there and it'll be stamped. And usually they say about 60 to 65 pounds, and maybe in a little bit bigger area might go up to 90, okay? But if you don't have that, you could borrow, I think, from Urban Farmer, kind of like a little rental. You put money down, they give you the gauge, you bring it back, they give you your money back. They just want the gauge back, okay? And you put that on the hose bib, and that will tell you what the pressure is. They have another gauge that you put on, it's a double gauge, and you turn it on, it'll tell you the pressure, then you open this, and the water comes out of this gadget, and it'll tell you how many gallons a minute come out. Now you know how many sprinklers you can put on, or how many drip heads, or whatever you can put. So these are things that they're in the book. If you get an irrigation book, they'll tell you that. Or you could, if you have a little bit of money and want to buy a gauge, if you're going to do a lot of irrigation, you might want to buy that gauge.
So Gus, you're saying the water that's sitting in that pipe by itself at a standstill versus when it's flowing, that might be a different pressure.
Yeah, because when you turn the gauge on and it'll say 65 pounds, when you open this, it won't say 65 anymore. It may drop to 30. But then it'll tell you how many gallons a minute in the other gauge. And when they came out with that, I thought that was, to show you how we used to do it. you used to have this closed, and you looked at the fire hydrant, you know, you had 65 pounds, then you'd hang a bucket underneath this, get your watch out, turn this on, and know how many gallons in the bucket for so many minutes. And you know how many gallons a minute. In 1 minute, how much water went into the bucket. Tell you how many gallons a minute.
We still doing that in some classes.
That's very primitive, you know, so you get a gauge to do that, okay? So once these things are all in place, and one of these gate or ball valve then goes to another piece of pipe, and then you would hook up your valves, okay? And this is a plastic one, and this is where the water comes in, and this should always be copper coming in, and coming out here can be PVC. But it should be, you know, the other day I showed you previously, this pipe is schedule 40. This gray one is schedule 80. And what the 80 means, it's the same thickness, but this one's UV stable. So usually these valves are up in the air, and if a lot of sun beats on it, they get brittle. If somebody bangs it or something, you can crack it real easy. This is UV stable, it never deteriorates. And then you could cut it with your cutters, and you could glue it down below. So you would just go down to the ground, put an elbow on, and then white pipe from there on, because this is more expensive than Schedule 40 PVC. All you got to worry about. Okay, so you know this would screw in here, and then you would go down and put a white elbow under the ground, and I'm sorry, that's copper coming in, and this is coming out. Okay, and so the copper went up, this comes down, and then it's all like this. Okay, this is the valve, this is the vacuum breaker. Okay, so these type of valves should be a foot to 18 inches above your highest head. If you put them down low, when you turn it off, this will spill water out, which kind of defeats itself. And how we found this out, someone installed one of our jobs, and a woman had a bucket under this. So whenever the electric sprinklers went on, when it went off, this would dump water. You know, she had a bucket. But if this is up where it belongs, it won't. This will go whoop, and it'll close down, and the water won't come out. Okay? Then, right in here, we don't have it on here, but this is like a brass one. And if this piece would have gone in here, so it looks very similar. You can see the top, this top, and then this is the solenoid with the wires. That would go in here. Okay? So these are called adapter valves. So in our business, I like brass. I like copper system, and then I like brass. It lasts forever. Okay? So you might find on your job they make them out of plastic, they make them out of nylon or much stronger material today. They're always cheaper than the brass. So, and then you have to have, if you go into electric sprinklers, these are the critical part of the whole system, the wire. This wire has to go here and yonder, wherever, to the clock. And so if somebody does some work, a tree falls over, you with a spade, you cut the wire somewhere, your sprinkler system will not work. So usually we like to take these and put them in PVC. So we run a piece of PVC and with a string through it, tie these to it, pull a piece of wire and hook them up, and that way when you hit that with a spade, you know you hit something. You're not going to cut the wire.
Like a conduit, you actually bury it, huh?
Yeah. You could buy, they make a gray one, but you know, it's no stronger than this, you know. But, because when they first came out, we just used to bury them. you know, and you can just see, a lot of times, you put these adapter valves, you would put this in, this is a sidewalk right to the edge right here, and this is a bed, so you put this valve here, and stick up about like this. Then you put boxwood next to it. So eventually the boxwood gets big, and then it covers this. You don't even see it. So then you're in there pruning your boxwood, and you could cut your wires, you know. And this is why we like to kind of take care of the wire. A lot of people never used to. Most of them, everybody does now. They watch their wires.
And Gus, is pretty standard putting them in boxes these days?
Yeah, okay, the adapter valves, they don't put in boxes, you know, because this type here with the vacuum breaker, like remember I said, has to be 1.5 feet above your highest head. But we don't have one here, but there's an underground valve, and they have the solenoid on them, but they don't have a vacuum breaker, okay? And so those go in a big box, and you could put, 3 or 4 valves in there. Open the box, work on your valves, clean them up, whatever. But then what you have to have is a vacuum breaker somewhere up in the air to make up for this, okay? Over here at school, so we don't have to use these, out behind the debris boxes, there's what do you call it, Tom?
Anti-Siphon Valve? No.
What do you call that? It's a different name, I can't remember. But they have to be checked every year, you know. But they keep anything from the garden going back in the water system. That's what the vacuum breaker does, but this is done on an individual basis, okay? So when you go underneath the box, you have to have a master valve and a vacuum breaker, okay? So it makes it a little more difficult, and that's why most gardeners like adapter valves. They don't have to worry about anti-siphon.
And Gus, when you're talking about these adapter valves, or actually the vacuum breaker, it's like a one-way valve, revert, no backflow. Is that the goal?
If you don't have this part on there, the vacuum breaker, yeah, the water goes through. And the reason they put vacuum breakers on, because years ago they didn't have these. Now they're on your dishwasher, your washing machine, and everything, because the water. If a water main breaks and you got the water hooked up to your washing machine, and there's water in the tank with soap, and the water goes out, it'll back up through there and go out into the pipes down the city in the street. And then when it comes back on, that'll go into everybody's house.
Somebody could be drinking your dishwater, so.
Yeah, and that's why they came out with the anti-siphon breaker. And that was the main reason, okay? So, just remember, when you see this, they make a big one, and they make a small one. So, if you're interested, go to Urban Farmer and ask questions. They're very good and helpful. Thank you.